Well, hello, I'm Jerry McKee, and welcome to Prime Time. We've got a couple special guests. Scarlette, you've heard her before and seen her before, and she's going to be with us today, and we're going to ask her all about automotives and how you change oil and all that stuff there.
Because I got that.
Yeah.
I got this.
You got that. But Alvin Earnhardt, we're going to tell you all about some, you're going to see a couple of beautiful cars from scratch he made. And if you need to ask a mechanic something, I bet he can tell you too, because he knows all that stuff like that. And me, no, you're not gonna just. You don't want me working on your cars. I work on everything else, computers, stuff like that. But Alvin definitely got some great talent on putting some cars together. I don't know how in the world he does it. But you're going to see a couple. Most of you probably already know him and seen some of his work, because he goes around all these places right everywhere. So we'll come back, and Alvin and Scarlette's going to talk to us a little bit, and we're going to go to a commercial. We got to go to our sponsor, One La Pagada. Pagada Mexican Restaurant, 441 North Duncan Bypass, Union, South Carolina, 864-429-4043. La Pagada, your family Mexican restaurants, has appetizers, child's plates, salads and soups, sandwiches, and desserts. Sizzling fajitas, Texas fajitas, shrimp fajitas. Also, they have great chicken, polo asado, chicken tenders, polo loco, and many more. If you like seafood, they have that also. Fish tacos, shrimp cocktail. They have many combinations that you can choose from in different price range. Matter of fact, they have 35 different ones. If you're a vegetarian, that's right, they can accommodate you also. Lunch menu, they have the Speedy Gonzales and about 13 others that you can make a combination with. That's La Pagada. La Pagada Mexican Restaurant, 441 North Duncan Bypass and Union, South Carolina, 429-4043. All right, we're back. Let me just switch a button, a couple of things over here. And we are talking to Alvin Earnhardt and Scarlette. And let me let you see what they look like over here. Instead of looking at me over here. All right, what I want to know is, Alvin, what was the first car that you got?
1962 Chevy Impala. It was a four-door hardtop. Scarlette probably remembers it. My mom had driven this car when I was very young. I was about 5 years old. She parked it with a bad transmission, and I was about 14 or 15 getting interested in old cars, and she gave it to me. And I started tinkering with that car, and the more I worked on it, the more I loved it, and I pulled it under the old mulberry tree out there, and with help of some friends, got that old car running and driving, and we painted it, and I drove it to high school for about 3 years.
Well, Scarlette, tell us, what is your first car besides the one you're driving? we know how, frugal you are with money, so...
I love my car out there. So my very first car my grandfather bought me, I was 18 years old, so I didn't have a car in high school. It was a 200 SX Nissan, straight drive, two-door. And I didn't know how to drive a straight drive, but my grandfather was like, well, it's about time you learn. So growing up in the country, we had to learn how to drive straight drives and tractors. Like, I can do all this stuff. I could probably build a car.
Cool.
But preferences. I prefer not to.
Now, wait, now, Alvin, I want you to hear this now because last time I talked to Scarlette, I think you were taking her car to see something about a leak in it with the radiator. So why didn't you fix that, Scarlette?
Well, let me tell you. Alvin, should I call you out on this?
Yes, go right
It was
ahead.
a little over Alvin's head. He could not do it. 3 mechanics turned me down on my car. So what I did was, there's a couple of fellas down the road living in campers that worked on cars.
2 homeless guys
And
down
so
there.
I turned my car over one evening. I was such a nut, but I prayed because I believe in Jesus for this. And I'm like, so the crackheads down the road fixed my car.
So I'm glad you wasn't waiting on Jesus to come down with the rest.
He's a carpenter. I need him to fix my front door.
And I felt bad I couldn't fix it, but I felt worse the crackhead could and I couldn't. But oh well.
Maybe you can hire them.
Yeah, maybe so.
I'm exaggerating. They weren't crackheads, but it was younger fellas who are millennial media people, and they probably watched video after video and said, "Hold my beer, watch this."
Yes.
So they did too.
Well, I want to ask you, what got you into just tinkering with cars, fixing cars, build them from the ground up? What enticed you to do that?
Oh wow, it's a long story, Jerry. I was born, I believe, loving cars. I can remember as a kid just seeing an old car and just like, wow, that's so cool. And of course, I collected Matchbox cars. I was about 5 or 6. I started building model cars, and I didn't want to go to school. And my mama told me, if you'll go to school like you're supposed to, on Friday I'll buy you a model car. So that went on every Friday. I'd build a model car and watch Deuce Hazard at the same time. And so I graduated from models to that old Impala I was telling y'all about, and the more I worked on it, the more I loved it. And just went from there. My love for cars just gets older and older, and ran a little salvage yard there for a few years, and then I went to work for a couple of friends of mine. I'm going to give a little plug here. County Line Rods. County Line Rods sells top quality fiberglass bodies, and I went to work for them and loved it out there. And
Now, where's your shop at? Where people know? Give yourself a plug.
it is out in the West Springs area, really off the beaten path, out in the country, at the end of Furman Drive, which turns off the Bogan Road.
Right.
It's the old Bogan home place, matter of fact, if anybody's familiar with it. It's where I grew up, it's where my shop still is.
Oh. Now, do you work on other people's cars or just yours, or
It's customer cars, but I don't do mechanic work. I just build.
did a body type
just
work?
build. Well, I mean, I do the mechanical, building the car.
Right.
But as far as like, changing oil and things like that, no, I'm not a garage. I just, I don't swap out parts or whatnot, but I just build.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, you used to build some beautiful cars. And I forgot to tell you what my first vehicle was actually a 1946 Chevrolet 3/4 ton pickup truck, pea green. It was a chick magnet.
So you were alive in '46.
No. Scarlett, I can cut your sound off.
I'm sorry. Well, if you were driving a Ford, so it was an older car to you.
What year was your first car?
I don't even remember. Like, I was 18 years old.
Right.
I mean, it had to be an older car. It was a used car. I don't know.
So,
I don't remember.
Was you born when you got your car?
No, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know you had to have car insurance until I was in my 20s.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
I didn't know any of that.
And now you don't even know if you have to have a license or not.
I got that. I got my license.
So anyway, it's a 3/4 ton peak. It had a steering wheel like this big.
Yeah.
And the gear shift was way up here, and that's where you had the starter in the floor, and you had a clutch, then you had a brake, then you had a gas pedal. I would love to take a video of Scarlett driving this vehicle.
Hey, I probably can.
You
With her
probably
foot.
could.
I have actually drove a car without a battery in it.
Cool.
Isn't there a way you can do that? You hook it
Yeah,
to
you
the
can.
alternator.
As
Yeah.
long as you don't turn the lights and stuff on.
Like it really just, it was from the field to the barn only.
Right.
It was like somebody, we've got to get the car, we've got to get this van out of the whatever. And then so took the battery out of my car. I don't know how it worked.
Okay. Now, you said you just always like to build model cars and things. What was your first vehicle that you to build up, and how did it turn out? Because you got to have a lot of different skills from metals and paint and stuff like that. Now, what was your very first one that you took and just made this car?
The actual very first total ground up, total nut and bolt restoration was that black Chevy Impala. I think I sent a picture of it to you.
Yes,
Which was actually just a few years ago. I'd been, like I said, working on cars since I was 13, whatnot, and swapping engines, painting them, transmissions, whatever. But as far as a complete, total build from the ground up, that black Impala.
Okay.
The two-door hardtop.
Now, you're talking about build. Did someone teach you how to do this, or how did you know? Because now we got YouTube University, we can just about see anything on.
Yeah.
But who kind of inspired you or showed you on how to do some of these things?
Oh, wow, there's so many people to mention. Don't leave anybody out. Mechanical work. Ed Greer and Kevin Morrow taught me auto mechanics at Union County Vocational School. Those two guys. Jerry Parks. I worked with Jerry. Great guy. He taught me a lot. The late Mansell Gowan from West Springs, my cousin, he taught me a lot. Frank Summer from here in Buffalo, he taught me a lot. The two guys at the hot rod shop I told you about, Jerome Philip Lawson, taught me. Alan Harvey at Harvey's Automotive. I worked out there for like 7 years, and that's where I learned most of my body work skills from Alan.
Okay.
Painting and whatnot.
Now, I've seen some of your pictures of some of your skills there. We're going to show a couple of your cars here in a moment, your vehicles. When you're, I just can't see how some of them doors and things, because I've seen a couple of your doors there that you had, like I said, man, I throw that stuff away. But you have an eye for this. What can...
Oh, I tell you, doors can be aggravating. I tell all my customers I'm not really a professional. I'm just a guy that enjoys getting out there and doing it. The picture of the blue truck that I sent to you.
Yes.
That door, one of those doors was awful. I mean, the entire bottom was gone, inside and outside. And you can order both those panels, but they're separate. And so I had no common line to line these panels up. And I didn't get it quite right. It was close, but it wasn't quite right. But thankfully, my customer, I'm going to mention Neil Kiesler, that's who it was easy to get along with. And he understood that it wasn't quite right, but he was happy. He was fine. Because when you're working with something like that, like I say, there's a lot of guys out there better than me. And there's guys around that can do that. Right. And get it right. But I got it close.
Now, do you have a fabricating machine, metal fabricating, or do you just do it? How do you get it bend and shaped and?
Well, I try to, when I can, I like to use factory patch panels. There's a lot of companies making these patch panels. And when I can, I like to use those. But if a patch panel is not available, I can take a sandbag and a rubber mallet and kind of eyeball it and tap on it and shape it. I can bend it in a vise or whatnot. I don't have a metal brake, but I can use a vise with 2 2x4s.
Right. And
make the bends in the metal and use rubber mallets. And I go through a lot of metal. I tear a lot of stuff up. You'll start over again. And but it's not that hard. It's just something that takes practice, like anything else.
Now your measurements sometimes got to be pretty precise.
Yes. Your measurements got to be dead on. You got to measure 3 times and cut once.
Right. That's what I've heard. And and kids in school nowadays, a lot of them don't even know how to read a tape measure or anything like that. And that really tells you that you got to have some math skills. You can have basic math skills. You don't have to geometry. That's good to have too. But you can. But you got to have some math skills in that.
Well, the funny thing, Jerry, I was I was awful in math. I barely squeaked by. You remember Scarlette?
I thought you were one of the smartest people in school.
Oh, goodness, no, I had you fooled good.
You
didn't I?
did.
I had
You
you
had a lot of people
fooled.
Well,
Oh.
you got to remember,
He
Scarlett's
hung out
expertise-
with that group of people that we knew studied.
So you got to really, you got to realize, Scarlett's the high expectation wasn't that high.
Hey, I had to keep a high grade because of cheerleading, but thank goodness I never copied your homework.
It's a good thing you didn't. You would have been off the squad, trust me. Oh, so math never came easy to me, and I get frustrated now. I'm like, I had to stop and think about it.
Right.
I'm like, I should have learned this stuff in high school. So I pushed my daughter. You better learn this stuff now.
Right, and that, and that goes to tell you that that you got to use math in life a lot of times when you work. Even in my position jobs, I have to know some math to be able to calibrate different things in a computer or the printers and stuff like that. But with yours, it could be a costly mistake if you mess up a panel or mess up a fender or something like that maybe you had to get. I mean, now that's another thing we're going to have to ask. I'll tell you what, we'll ask that question when I get back.
Okay.
And we're going to go to a commercial here in just a minute. We are talking to Scarlette and we are talking to Alvin Earnhardt. And we'll ask him if he's kin to the Earnhardts at races. So we'll be back right after these. La Pagada Mexican Restaurant, 441 North Duncan Bypass, Union, South Carolina, 864-429-4043. La Pagada, your family Mexican restaurants, has appetizers, child's plates, salads and soups, sandwiches, and desserts. Sizzling fajitas, Texas fajitas, shrimp fajitas. Also, they have great chicken, polo asado, chicken tenders, polo loco, and many more. If you like seafood, they have that also. Fish tacos, shrimp cocktail. They have many combinations that you can choose from in different price range. Matter of fact, they have 35 different ones. If you're a vegetarian, that's right, they can accommodate you also. Lunch menu, they have the Speedy Gonzales and about 13 others that you can make a combination with. That's La Pagada. La Pagada Mexican Restaurant, 441 North Duncan Bypass and Union, South Carolina, 429-4043. Okay, we're back. We're talking to Alvin Earnhardt and Scarlette, talking about cars and how you build up a car, an old car from scratch. We're going to find out now a little bit more about what's going on and how. Let me switch this over here. And don't forget, you can call this number at 864-441-9382. Call in and ask Alvin a question. Try to trick him if you can. I don't believe you can.
Easy.
So, I'm Jerry McKee, and we're going to switch over. And now, the parts, I know you said you worked some in a junkyard one time.
Mm-hmm.
And so is it hard to find some of these parts? Is it kind of, you try to find the most original if you can?
It depends on the project, depends on the customer. I've got something like the truck I built, the blue one in the picture. The customers wanted to keep all the original body parts, and they were some rough parts. This truck had been torn apart under pine trees for years, and once I got this thing sandblasted, it was like Swiss cheese. And the panels, from a standpoint of labor, the fenders and the doors were not worth saving, but it meant a lot to them.
Right.
That I used the original parts because
That's that blue truck, the Chevy.
The blue
Did you
Chevy.
Put the picture up? Let me
Because-
show that picture right here. There
And,
we go.
Oh, that's beautiful. So when we antique the 5-mile Volvo, we're going to keep all the original parts, and
if you want to, Scarlette.
I can put it in shows one day.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
you
can.
sure can. They can put it in there under dinosaurs.
I love my station wagon. I swear I love
I'm
it.
gonna drop a small block Chevrolet in it and put a blower on it. You're gonna be the fastest thing in the valley.
Get my car out.
I guarantee it. Put some gold 22s.
Yeah, put a little trailer behind it where you can haul water.
Yes. There you
Hot
go.
water.
Got to hold the water.
Well, she got that fixed by the homeless people.
Gotta feed them, keep them going.
Anyway, she had to pay them. That means if it's crackheads,
No, they wouldn't. I really over exaggerated that because I don't want to get fussed at. There are some sweet people that they do live in
Exactly.
campers. They're like Birkenstock people.
Yeah.
You know, like
that's good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parks open.
friends with my
Now-
brother. So
now
you
when you-
remember Lance.
Oh, yes, very well.
Now, when you built the blue truck, I like the wheels on it, and you talking about, is these the original fenders?
Yes, that's original fenders.
Now, is that the hood you was talking about was very difficult that had a lot of dents and things in it, or?
Yes, that hood was covered with surface rust, deep pits. And I don't know how many hours of labor I have in that hood, just filling pits and sanding, filling pits and sanding.
What do you
filling
fill a
pits
pit
and sanding.
with? What is that? Like putty, like you fill a wall?
It's very similar. It's just plastic body filler.
Okay.
If the pits are very, very tiny, you can use what's called poly putty, which is it's a softer version of body filler, but it's the same principle.
So it just sticks to the metal of the car?
You got to grind it first. You sand it with like 36 or 40 grit paper or a grinder. Grind it with it, get it good scratched up. It's got to have that texture to bite into. If you don't, it'll just peel off.
So that's like sanding the body part.
Kind of like when
And then
you're,
you put that, what's the putty called again?
The trade name's Bundo. It's plastic body filler.
Put
but
that in, sand it again till it's smooth. Do you prime it before you paint it?
Yes.
Oh, well, I can fix my own car.
Well, see,
I
Scarlette,
just need to know what to
the,
do.
the reason I know you can do that, you do toenails and nails. And it's kind of like that when you taking the file them in there, you're painting it, you're putting Bondo, whatever in there to kind of fill in some things. Yeah, you'd be good at it.
I might come to work for you, Scarlett.
I
Just
seriously
Bundo everybody's
don't
toenails.
think I want to attempt something because I'm on my own here, so I do have to do a lot of things on my own.
Yeah, well, please video that when you do.
Definitely. I want to see that for
You wouldn't
sure.
believe half the stuff I do by myself.
All right, don't remember, you can call 864-441-9382 if you have a question. And now, and I know you go to a lot of these car shows. Still in Motion's one you just went to.
Yeah.
And when you go around, do you start looking at what type of paint, how it's put together, if it's original and all these things here? Do you kind of critique that?
I do. I tend to look and see. I like the ones that are driven, because that's what I build as drivers. I don't really build the show quality. Barrett Jackson, that's not me. I build the things people can drive and enjoy.
Right.
And that's one of the things about Still in Motion I love, is because a lot of those cars are drivers. People have driven those things from several states, a lot of them to come to Still in Motion. And so I like to look at the ones that people really enjoy
Right.
and drive.
And that's what I would do if I had one. I'd want to drive it.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Oh, yeah.
just put it in the closet and bring it out once in a while.
That's right.
Kind of like do Edna, bring it out once in a while in the closet in there.
I love Edna.
But one of my favorite cars is a 1966 Thunderbird.
Yeah, I love those.
It's just always been one of my favorite cars in that era.
Yeah.
To have with the seats, the leather seats, and the kind of a round back seat of it, and all the chrome in it.
Oh, yeah.
Cars now, they don't have chrome; they got plastic.
I know. It's so different now.
It is, and when you see that, you just kind of like, okay, it's like they just don't make the muscle cars like they used to, and when they try to do it, it doesn't really. I mean, they look good. Some of them do look good, look sharp like that, but nothing like the muscle cars.
That's true.
And what is your favorite muscle car?
Wow. Some people don't consider it a muscle car, but it actually is. But my favorite goes back once again to a 62 Chevy Impala SS two-door hardtop, 409, 4-speed. That's the car for me right there. And now Kelly, my beautiful wife over there, she loves Chevelles. She really loves
yes.
Chevelles. So I got to give Chevelles a plug there too. I want to get her one day.
Well, they were very popular, around that era, around 65, 64 Chevelles.
Yes.
They had the big block engine in them too, and they'd move on pretty good. Now I had a '66 Caprice, had a 427 in it.
Yeah, you don't see many of those anymore.
No, no.
Pretty sure.
And it's cars that you just wished you had
I know.
back then. Now, I did have a 63 Impala, and it had a big hole in the floor. And my mom and them rode with me one time. It was raining.
Did you Fred
And,
Flintstone?
Sound like mine.
and the rain come up on it and splashed them and never rode with me again.
Oh my goodness.
And then one time going down there with that, I put some carpet over it.
Yeah.
Well, going down the road, and car filled up with smoke. It caught on fire. Just pull off and beat it out.
I can relate to the four-door I had in high school. I told you about my mom gave me. It had rusty floors, and I didn't know how to weld back then. So me and my buddy Andy Bogan, we just popped sheet metal in there with some rivets, called it good, put carpet in it. We were cool. Well, me and Joey Mays and my buddy Scotty Brewington, we would ride together to school. And whoever was in the back, whether it be Joey or Scotty, they were crying because that exhaust would come up in their eyes.
Well, see, but back then we just had to do what we had to do with
Yes.
a vehicle.
That's right.
And but see, you had a little bit more edge on you because you could fix it and kind of make it look nice. And mine, I couldn't do that. I just had to kind of use some white spray paint and the dents and stuff where it wouldn't rust too bad.
Now, would you consider Nova like an old car?
Oh, yes. Sure.
So that was
Nova.
Lance's first car, was that Nova. Do you remember that?
I remember Lance's Nova, cool car.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, the Mercury, was that old too or not?
Yes.
It depends on kind of
Mercury, yeah, it depends. But
Yeah, I think
Mercury Cougar.
Cougar. I think my dad had a Mercury, and then we still got the old truck on the farm. Yeah. Now it doesn't run, and I think the tires are like dry rotted or whatever. But yeah, I still got like an old vehicle. He's gonna come look at it. Maybe I can drive it, but it's big. It's like a big truck thingy.
I'm looking forward to seeing that truck.
Well, you put a truck
I'll
out
check it
there
out.
with not Smokey the Bandit. It was
BJ
and the Bear. Yes.
Yes.
And that was a sharp-looking tractor and trailer. Well, the trailer went with it, but that was a sharp-looking vehicle.
It got my attention. Actually, I shared it off Facebook. I didn't have anything to do with that
Yeah.
one, but I saw it on Facebook, and I watched that show as a kid. So I thought I just got to share this right here. Cause
Now, did you, as a kid, we grew up with the '01
Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard. I just totally lost train of thought. Dukes of Hazzard. Did you ever think about painting one of your cars like that, or?
Oh, yes. If a matter of fact, I had a 73 Roadrunner for about 20 years.
Oh.
And it was white, and I had it painted back white. That was before I started painting myself. Alan Harvey sprayed that when I was working with him. But I always wanted to paint it kind of that greenish yellow like Daisy Dukes. If you remember in the Dukes, the first year,
She had the green car.
sure
Yeah.
did. And I always wanted to paint mine that green color, but I never did. I ended up selling the car to build the Impala. Never did do it.
What'd you think about the Super B, Plymouth? Had the slanted front, almost like a Corvette. In the back had the spoiler on the back. A friend of mine had one of those, and man, I thought to myself, man, I'd love to have one of those. You just don't see them anymore. I don't know if people just got rid of them or what. It's rarely you see one.
Yes, and they were very rare to begin with. There wasn't a whole lot of them made, And then over the years, a lot of them got wrecked. People were street racing and whatnot, wrecked them, put them in the junkyard, and so they're very few and far between now.
What size of the engine did they have in those? Was it a 454 or is that a Oldsmobile or something?
It would have been a 440 more than likely, or I'll be honest with you, I don't know my Mopar history like I should, but your popular Mopar engines were like 440s, 426 Hemis, 383s. They were popular Mopar engines. So probably one of those.
Well, look, we got a caller coming in. Hey, Frank, can you hear me?
Hey, I can. How you doing, Jerry?
I'm doing good. Let me put you on the. Can y'all hear him?
I hear him. You hear him, Scarlette?
I hear him a little bit.
Hold on a second here. Let me make sure. Here we go. Oh, now we can hear you better.
Okay, good.
Can you hear?
Now, who do we have?
We got Frank Hart. Frank, you got a question for Alvin?
No, I was just going to say Al actually restored my '79 Camaro for me, and he does really good work, and it's real reasonable. Most of the time you can't really find that work reasonable, but he's pretty reasonable and does real good work.
Frank,
Well, go ahead.
Frank, I appreciate the kind words. I think I owe you a crab leg supper, I believe.
Oh, well, okay, I'll take that.
Now, I heard a story about Frank's car when you did it.
Oh, wow.
Wasn't there something, didn't something go
Yes.
sideways with that?
Very sad story. Frank, should I tell the story about the goats, or do you want to tell the story?
Yeah, we don't really like to talk about that. So, yeah, Al, of course, restored the car and had it looking great, and my oldest daughter left the door open to the shop, and she had these 3 crazy goats that decided to go in there and like have a fiesta dance on top of it. So
Oh,
I tried
no.
to get Al to warrant it for goat damage, but I wasn't able to work that out.
Well, what you should have done was took it back to Alvin and says, look,
You messed up.
Yeah, something messed up.
Yeah, that's right.
I think he's going to owe you more than a crab leg dinner now.
A whole lot more.
Frank,
Yeah.
what kind of car was it, Frank?
It wasn't nothing special. It was a 1979 Camaro that I had gotten, probably like in the 11th grade or something.
Oh, okay.
And, just kind of had him go back through it and paint his plates off of it and everything. Just kind of, get it back to good shape. And he did a good job on it.
Yeah, Camaros were very popular. I remember when they started coming out like that, everybody had to had a Camaro. Just if you didn't drive a Camaro, you just kind of was not in the in crowd.
Yeah. Well, I remember mine was, everybody wanted a Trans Am or Z28 or whatever. Mine had a straight 6-cylinder 250. So I think, Al, you might have got in on that a little bit. We went to a junkyard and bought an old 350 engine, redid it, and dropped it in it.
Yep, I remember that. And I also remember that
helped a little bit.
And I also remember you proved that 6-cylinder would do 110. I remember the night you done that.
So he was
don't
driving
talk
really
about that.
fast.
Well, that's kind of like I had a 1958 Oldsmobile, big old tank. And I'll tell you, it had a big engine in it. And back in my younger days, and don't do this, anybody listening, it got up pretty high. I think I beat Frank's speed, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was
I'm
taught
sure
to
that
drive
big Oldsmobile was
appropriately.
floating down the road.
I tell you, it was on that long stretch of Interstate 40.
Yeah.
Wind them out.
Well, I didn't want to tie y'all up. I just wanted to say Al does good work. He did a good job for me.
Thank you, Frank.
Well,
I appreciate it, man. It means a lot to
Well,
me.
thank you, Frank. You have a great night.
All right. Y'all have a good one. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So you've been doing stuff since you were a teenager.
Mhm.
I mean, like I knew you did stuff in high school. Stuff didn't register all the time. But